Okay. So, are we looking good here? Of course we're looking good. We're looking fantastic. So, up to this point, you've been following along instructions on tutorials, and that's a great way to get introduced to things, but it's not really the best way to own things. So before we go any further, it's time for you to start playing, and in using your own creativity, that's when you're really going to own the knowledge that you gain, and hopefully have even a lot more fun with it. So let's go ahead and start by opening up a new Max scene. And when you get to your new Max scene, go ahead and do all the things like changing the viewports to default shading, and maybe even go to display selected with edge faces, etc. etc. And do that for all the viewports. The other thing you want to do when you're opening up a new Max scene is go to the Customize and just check your units setup and make sure that you are on US standard feet with decimal inches. You might be there already. Okay. And then go ahead and save it. So go to Save As. And this time you'll start with your last name. And mine is Kuhn. And then your first name, Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T. And then your period, P1. And then you're going to call this one My Interior Space. Or excuse me, My Interior Scene. By the way, when you create a Max file, that is exactly what it's called. It's called a scene. And so that's a scene file, and it's in your scene folder. So when we are creating a scene, well, that's literally what we are creating. Hopefully that doesn't sound too confusing for you. Anyways, in this tutorial, I'm not going to run you step by step through things because, as I said on the outset, it's time for you to make it your own, to own it, to use your own creativity. But I have made a couple up in advance to give you some ideas, but only ideas. And I will cover one thing, and that is grouping, and you'll see why here in just a little bit. So with that, let me go ahead and show you some of the things that I was working on as examples for you guys. Okay, so here's a little one that I made before, and as you can see, it's got a set just like the one that we built in the tutorials, although this one, the parameters are just a little bit different, the dimensions that is. So for instance, here's the right wall. We've got a length of 16, 14, -6. The floor is 30 feet this time by 16 in width, etc. And then I've got a few new things that I built, and like I say, these are just examples. You do your own thing. I really want you to do your own thing with this one. So for instance, we've got a scene that maybe looks like in a museum or a boardroom, conference room, some kind of thing, some kind of important looking building here. And on the wall, I've got some frames that eventually will put some pictures in. So let's take a look at one of those. I'll actually go Alt W here. So I've got these frames up on the wall. And how did I go about making those? Well, it was really very easy actually. I just went ahead and, where is it? Looking for my frame example here. All right. I'm going to use my thing over here to zoom in on it. There it is. Okay. And I'll even isolate it right over here. And by the way, I'm going to start going through things a little bit quicker, especially when it's review stuff. If it's new stuff, okay, don't worry, I'll take my time on it. But if it's stuff that we've gone over before, you probably want me to go quicker. You don't want me to run through everything. Okay, that being said, here we go. We've just got a box. Here's some dimensions on it. It's 3 feet by 4 feet by 3, or excuse me, 4 feet by 4 feet by 3 inches. We've got this cut into segments 12 by 12, basically. And so what I would do next is I would go in here and I would make it an editable mesh. I would go to my polygons. I would probably go to my front view right here. And I've got my select tool selected, so I would select those polygons. I would go to my left view, maybe, and you'll see, yeah, I've selected the back too. Got to be careful for that. And so I'm going to deselect by pushing down my Alt key and dragging a marquee just over here. And you'll see I will have deselected those ones in the back. Okay, and here using my view cube right here, I can get right on the corner and my move tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and push that in a little bit. And you can see now that's beveled those edges a little bit, and that's how I made my frame. That's really all there was to it. Okay, so I'm going to end the isolation here and actually go back to the top level here and hide that again. Okay. Oh, back to P for perspective here. All right, so that was the frames. Oh, let's see. How did I make this one like this? Well, that was really easy too. Okay, so back to my frame again and isolate that. Yeah, all I did there, that was super duper easy. So here in our front view, we've got our vertice. We select one of the vertices. We use the soft select like we've used before now. Got that. And we just pulled it up, right? And then after I'd pulled it up, I think I changed that a little bit. Here we go. Maybe something a little bit more like that. All right. Yeah, there we go. Pulled that up, and then maybe Control, right? And probably then just took this and not that. Maybe it wasn't soft select anymore. Click off soft select. There we go. Control. Marquee those. Okay, there we go. So something like that. That might not be, the exact shape that I got, but that's how I got it with a lot of fiddling around using the soft select and whatnot. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but the soft select thing is really kind of fun to fool around with. All right, back to my top level here. And okay. So turn that off. Let's take a look at the table. The table is super duper simple. So where we have it, see, isn't it nice to have things labeled? You can find things. So there's the table, and we'll isolate that for a second, and you'll see that is super simple because that is just where I've taken a box and I've taken a cylinder, okay, and I just stretched out the cylinder, using this thing, right? And then I attached the box. So using the good old attach right there, where you attach things at. Okay, so just like with the chair that we made in the last tutorial. Okay, that one was super duper simple. Now these chairs, they look complex, but they're really not that complex. So let's turn on a couple of things here. And so we'll get that one there and that one there and this one here, and we'll isolate these for a second. And this is how I made that chair. So this is a chamfer box. It's a really super nice primitive to know. But where do we find it? Well, if we go over here to the Create tab, and we go, not in our standard primitives, you won't find it there, but many of you guys have already fooled around, gone down to the extended primitives. That's where you'll find it. The chamfered box and the chamfered cylinder, both really useful. So this one, for instance, when we created it, it was 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, and the fillets were an inch and some change, and I believe that measurement was something that I got just when I dragged it up a little bit. And the segments, I divided the top into 24 by 24 segments because I knew I wanted to cut it up a little bit and push it around. And the fillet segments, what does that mean? Well, the fillet segments are these right here. 1, 2, 3. It's that rounding that happens on the edge. And it comes with 3 standards. You could give it more, as you can see, to make that rounding a lot rounder. Okay. Okay, so how did I get it to be this nice molded shape? Well, what I did is first, I probably went some like, here we go to our top. First thing I would have done is make it editable. So edit mesh right there. And with my polygons selected, I think I left border of 2 on each side. Yeah, something like that. And so those are selected, but let's go F for front. These ones are selected too, and I don't want these selected. So I'm going to push down my Alt key, go like so. And then from there, what I can do is I could just go ahead, bring this down. Boom! Instant sort of office chair. And then the cushions, that's super easy. I mean, that's just, well, another chamfer box that I made to fit it. And that's all that those are. So you can see that's a pretty simple sort of scene that I've created, right? I've got my set, and I've got a few things that I put on the walls to make it kind of groovy. I've got a little table here that I've made by just attaching a couple of objects, and here where I just pushed and pulled primitive around, and then I even added another object here just to make it a little bit better, in other words, the cushion. All right, finally what I did is I added a camera. Let's go back. Here's the top view, and let's go here. We'll make this our, well, that's the top view. Here's our front view, and here's our perspective. And you can see here's my camera right here. So, what I did is when I was in my perspective, I just went ahead and, I zoomed in and zoomed around and found a thing that I liked. But first, wait a minute, but first let's back up. And I went to my render setup, and I made sure that my aspect was right. Okay, how tall, how wide my picture screen was. And I put it on HD TV, right? And I made it, this one, 1280 by 720 is what I want for taking this picture. Okay. Anyways, and so I happen to have a camera right here. You can see it. There it is in all its glory. And there's the picture. And so then what I would do when I'm all done with making my scene is I'm going to take a picture of that, render, and save image. And make sure I'm in the right place. In the T drive, I'm going to be in art, and I'm going to be in period 1, or period 2, or 3 if it happens to be. And so here's the project folder to turn that in. So project 2A, my scene. And there you go. You can see I've saved a copy of it already with my last name, my first name, the period, and I call it my scene. Okay, that's how I want you to save it. Please follow the format. When I lay out a naming thing, it just makes everything easier. Okay, so we can cancel that, but you just hit save, and you know how to go from there. All right, so here's just another example, because kids, right? If I put up one example, they'll do just that. And so I wanted to give you at least one more, but I want you to just do it yourself. Have some fun with it. Here's another example